Hello everybody and welcome to our next webinar. This is a part of our technical webinar series for Spatial Analyzer. My name is Anna Smith. I am an application engineer for Spatial Analyzer. I am based out of Jacksonville, Florida. So any of you in the southeast region of the US, you might see me pop by your site occasionally. I'm very excited to meet you guys. All right, so today's webinar is going to be a What's New webinar. So what's new and what you can expect out of our latest release, or our next upcoming release. I am using a beta today, and you can see that down in the bottom section of my screen in SA. I'm using SA 2021.2.71320. That's my version. It is a beta, just so you are aware, and if you are looking to test out some of these new and exciting features, you can also download a beta, or when this does become a full release, I'll show you where to get that. So if we come over, if I just go to our website, if you're looking to download the latest beta or our latest release, you'll come here and come over to this top right hand corner where it says download. Click on that. You will have to enter your information. Once you enter it once, it'll save it and just have your email address there. And hit submit. So here in this top section we have our latest release. So if you click there, it'll download that first release of 2021. That does not at this point have the features that I'm about to show you. So if you're wanting to test those out, you're going to look for the 2021.2. That should be coming out shortly, but you do have a beta option here. So down towards a little bit lower, we have SA beta program, and that's going to give you the latest and greatest stuff, but be wary, it is a beta, so be aware of that. Right here we have 2021.2.71288. So this is where you can get that latest beta and test out some of these features I will be showing you today. If I jump over on one tab, I am utilizing the newest hexagon scanner. It's the Absolute Scanner AS1. So this is what it looks like. Sorry, I don't have my webcam going today, guys. But just so you can get a good picture in your head, I'll be utilizing this scanner with an 18960 tracker. So a really cool thing about this scanner is that you can swap it between a 960 tracker as well as an absolute arm. So it's a really great feature. It just came out, and the scanner gives us a lot of data. So you'll see that for yourselves coming up in this webinar. Just want you guys to have a good idea in your head of what I'll be using. If you're curious on getting some more information on this new scanner, please reach out. We can get you any information that you need and get you in contact with somebody that can get you in contact with somebody that can give you the information you need. But yeah, be aware that this is out, and it's a fantastic piece of equipment. So we'll see some of its capability today in conjunction with Spatial Analyzer. So let's go ahead and jump right back into the software. All right, so the majority of this webinar today will be focusing on the new cloud capabilities. But prior to doing that, we do have some other small additional improvements that can just be very helpful with navigating a file. Here you can see I have a very simple file. I just have my CAD of the piece that I'll be scanning today. It is a car door, and I have my tracker in here and then the world frame. So pretty simple right now. I don't have any data in there yet. So some new navigating tools for the graphics within SA. If you're utilizing a mouse with a center scroll wheel, these are going to be your new best friends when you're trying to find something in the graphics. So if you come over to your tree, and let's just zoom in kind of in the middle of the SA universe really quick so we can see it in action. If you come over to your tree and let's say, hey, we want to find our CAD, but we're a little bit lost in our file right now, all you have to do is click down that center scroll wheel on your mouse on that piece, and it will bring it right into the center of your screen. If I do the same thing and go over to my instrument and I click down that center scroll wheel, it's going to pop it right in the center. It's a super quick and easy way to center an object into your screen. You're not having to go down into the right-click menu to find center and view anymore. And another quick tool, so if you can toggle the visibility with that center scroll wheel as well. So if you hover over our object, so here I'm going to go over my CAD. If I hold the control key and again click down that center scroll wheel, it's going to hide my object. And if I hold it again and click down my center scroll wheel, it'll bring it back. So holding the control key and clicking down that center scroll wheel will toggle the visibility on and off. Again, it's just saving the time from having to right click and go find that show or hide command within your right-click menu. So again, just another time saver, and as your files get bigger and more complicated, this is going to be a very handy tool to just navigate your graphics and identify what you're looking for within your file. So just a huge time saver there. All right, so that's kind of the new little tools to navigating your file. Now let's get into the really exciting stuff, our new cloud capabilities. So we can see I'm using a 960. That's already been added and connected within my file. I have my tracker there. I have my instrument interface up. And in that measure button, I can see that I'm using my AS1. That's my part number for my AS1. So let's talk about some of our options and how we're going to get our data from our scanner. So if I go into my Home tab and go into User Options, under this display tab of my user options, I can come down towards the bottom and there's this new button for clouds and mesh. Now at the top of this window, I can see I have 3 options and they're all under real-time cloud scanning. So this is how is my data going to come in when I take it. So we have our points display, and that's kind of the classic. You're probably used to seeing that. That's your raw data coming in. We have voxel display, and then we now have mesh display, so real-time mesh. This used to be an SA, but we've made some much needed big improvements to it, so you'll see what this looks like now. It's huge improvements coming forward. All right, so if I go to mesh display, there are some settings you can adjust here. I'm going to leave them on the defaults. That'll work for our application here, but if you do need to adjust any of these settings, you can. And then we also have other mesh default settings down here. So our general mesh defaults and the extended parameter mesh. So again, I'm going to leave them all on the defaults right now, but you do have the capability to edit those and adjust them as needed if it does become an issue for you or something that you want to adjust. Let's hit OK there and OK. I'm going to make this solid for our view here. And I'm just going to start taking some data. So I'll bring it in as just scan 1 right now. I'm going to pick up my scanner. And I did run a quick align on this part before I opened up the file, so you guys didn't have to run through that with me. So we are roughly aligned to our CAD file here. So if I just hold down the trigger on my scanner, we can see that scan data coming in right over our CAD. Look at that coming in. I'll take a little bit more. You can see that white line as it follows. That's my incoming data. And then we can see it becoming a mesh as I move along and add more. There we go. I just let go of my trigger to stop scanning. If I zoom in here, you can see that mesh that came in. Look at that. Beautiful, right? All right, so that is the live meshing tool. Working great. So we were very excited about this. I hope you all are too. But next we're going to move right along to our voxels. So I'm going to just go ahead and hide that. I'm going to throw this into scan number 2 so we can get a separate scan here. And let's go back into our user options. And we're going to go to Home, again, User Options. And we're going to change our default here for the clouds and mesh to come in as voxels. And again, there are some settings within here for your voxel size and then that size resetting as you add more data. Again, I'm going to leave on the defaults here. And we have some voxel default settings again for like colorization options. Because now we can do live colorization of our voxels as we go. So it's not just going to be the voxel, they're going to give live readouts of the deviations between our data and our CAD. So get excited, guys. This is going to look great. All right, so I am, for scan 2, I do need to add a little bit of data. For that colorization, we have to have a relationship. So to add that relationship, I'm going to add a little bit of data first. And that just came in as a regular old voxel. So you can see that there. Those are our standard voxels in the pseudo surface format. And we're going to add the relationship to allow it to do that colorization for us. So to add that relationship to our file, we're going to come into that Features tab and go over to this far right-hand side. And that is a cloud. So what we're doing is we're working with cloud data. So we're going to go under Clouds, and And we're going to do a cloud to object relationship. SA will prompt me to select point clouds. I'll come in and select this guy and hit enter and select objects. My object is my CAD here. And select that and then hit enter as well. And there we go. It just colorized. And now as we take more data, it's all going to colorize as we go. I'm kind of giving us that live heat map look. So here we go. Let's start adding some more data. I'll hold down the trigger again on my scanner. You can see it's coming in as those brown points, and then SA is doing those calculations as I move along to give us that colorization. Look at that. It's beautiful, right? So a huge improvement to our cloud capabilities here. We could always do these deviations, but we just didn't have the capability to do them live as we were scanning. You'd have to put it all together afterwards. So now, with this, you don't have to do any of that. You can set it all up in advance, have that come in as you're taking your data, and just get this beautiful, beautiful heat map here. A little bit further away. So anything with the AS1 is if you exceed the distance of where it can collect good data, it does have a little bit of a haptic feedback, so it'll vibrate and let you know that you need to adjust your position. So it just did that to me. I wasn't getting any data. There we go. So let's call that good. So I just let go of my trigger on that AS1 and put it back in its stand. There we go. So recalculate that last little bit. Look at that colorization. Isn't that nice? Coming in just like that. All right, so that is our voxel settings and getting that live colorization. You can adjust the colorization settings here within these options. So if we go to scan stripe cloud, voxel cloud settings, colorization, and now we have discrete colors. If you wanted a continuous map, you could do that as well. So you can always adjust those settings however you'd like. The default is just the discrete color, so that's how it came in. But if you need to, you can do a tolerance go, no go. Any of that. Those are still all available to be adjusted. All right. Those are our voxel settings. Again, okay, so lastly, I'm going to hide that again, and we're going to do one more scan. So this is going to be our raw data coming in. So you might think that, hey, there's nothing new here. We've always accepted raw data. We have accepted raw data from scanners for a long time, but we now have some additional settings that can help you filter down that data. All right, but let's first tell it we're going to be sending in raw data. So we go to options, again, under our home tab, come down to clouds and mesh. And then we're going to go into just points display. So that's that raw cloud data coming in. We said OK, and then OK again. So these new settings can help you with how much data is coming in. So these scanners, they're functioning at 300 hertz. So you send in a lot of data, which is great. But sometimes we don't need 10 million points on a flat surface, right? We might want some higher density data on the edges of our curvatures here or around holes. But on those flats, we're okay with it thinning out a little bit. So we've added new settings to allow for you to edit that. So this is a little bit hidden, so it's going to be in the instrument interface under the settings for your specific tracker. So if we go to settings here at the top left-hand corner of your instrument interface, come over here to tracker, hover over to that next menu, general settings, and it's going to open up this window. And down in the bottom of this window, we have the Leica AT960, 930 specific settings. So we're going to go into that. And then to turn this auto filtering on, we're going to have to check this checkbox for minimum angle filter and max distance. So what it's looking at here is this minimum angle. It's going to look at 3 points at a time, and if the angle between those 3 points exceeds 10 degrees, it's going to keep all of that data. If it's not, so if you're on a flat and it's within 10 degrees, it's going to move on and look at the next 3 points and do the same thing. It's going to toss those out and look at the next 3. So it'll keep all the data that are exceeding 10 degrees, so all your curvatures. It'll keep all that, so you'll get a lot higher density there. And then if it's not, if you're on a flat surface there, it's going to toss it out but it's going to keep within 1/4 of an inch. So you will keep some data still on those flats, just not as much as you will on those curvatures. And you can, of course, adjust these settings. We're going to leave them at the defaults right now. One more note right here is we have this program buttons. This is how you can program your buttons on your AS1. It does have 4 buttons that you can program, A, B, C, and D. So that is a handy tool there as well. You can do an enormous part of your inspection without ever touching your computer if you needed. You can just use the buttons on the AS1. So just a quick note there. But like I said, you can adjust these settings if you need to. We're going to leave it at the defaults for now. We'll hit OK and OK again. So as we bring in this next set of data, I'm going to start taking a scan. And this car door does have a few flats, but a lot of curvatures too. So we should see a decent amount of data coming in. I'm just going to kind of paint the part, kind of hit horizontal lines, some vertical lines. I might do focus a little bit on some of these holes if I want some more data on them. There we go. So just let go of my trigger to tell it I'm finished collecting data for that scan. We can see our data all came in. I'm going to go ahead and hide my CAD. You can kind of see this. So do you see how that there's a lot higher density on these edges here on these curvatures? And this sparses out a little bit as you get on those flats. So that's what I'm talking about. It's a little bit easier to visualize now. So we can see the higher density around the holes there. And it thins out kind of as you get to those flats. So it's a great way to keep more of the data. Ah, there's a beautiful example, right? So there we go. And that's kind of a hole in our part that does have more of a lip. The rest of it's kind of sheet metal, so it's very thin. This one does kind of punch through and have a lip there. So that's why we're seeing a lot more data here. You're seeing it's looking at that curvature, and the points exceeded 10 degrees, so it kept them up. And that's why we're seeing all of that data. And it's sparse out as we get a little bit further away and into those flats around it. All right, so that is some of the new features for cloud data. We can do just a recap here. We can do that raw cloud data like we're looking at here, and you can adjust those settings for keeping more data around the edges or curvatures, some more detailed features, and letting it thin out more so over the flats. And again, just a real quick recap, that's going to be in your settings under your instrument interface. So settings, tracker, general settings, Leica AT960, hit that button down at the bottom to get your tracker specific settings, and then checking that checkbox to turn it on. And one note I do want to make is if you leave this on and then you try to switch to meshing, it's only going to keep the data on the curvature, so your mesh is going to not look how you want it. So you want to uncheck that again before you go back into that live mesh, or else it's not going to keep the data on the flats, right? Because it's thinning it out. Again, you can hit OK. OK. And then again, to switch between your raw clouds to voxels or to mesh, you're going to go into your user options. So under that home tab, user options, clouds and mesh. So right now we're in that points display. That's what we just did. Go into the voxel display to get that voxel, those voxels coming in. And then if you do want to have that live colorization, you will need to create a relationship between that cloud and whatever you're comparing it to, the CAD. And then that mesh display as well, down there at the bottom. So you can switch how the data is coming in using these radio buttons. And hit OK there. And then there's last little navigation tools. We can show and hide things from our tree by holding down that control button and hitting that center scroll wheel. So let's show our CAD again. So we can see, there we go, a good visual on our CAD of that lip that we were talking about. And that's why it kept all that data, because it's looking at that curvature and saying, hey, this is exceeding 10 degrees, let's keep it. And as we kind of get into those flats, it's throwing out, or it's filtering out some of the other data. It's not on a tight curvature. So again, showing and hiding things by holding that control key and toggling or clicking your center center mouse button, that scroll wheel, to toggle the visibility. And then if you just hit the center scroll wheel without holding control, it's going to center whatever you click on in your screen. So I just forced it to the instrument. If I take it back to my CAD, I can do that as well. All right, that was just a little recap. I hope you all enjoyed it and are as excited about these new features as I am. If you have any questions at all about any of these, please do not hesitate to reach out to either myself or our team. You can reach me at anna.smith@hexagon.com. Reach out to anybody on our support team and we'd be happy to help walk you through or answer any questions you have. All right, thanks guys. We'll see you next time.